Okay. So what's going to what you can expect in this session? A brief background why we are starting with this series, overview of the PM job role, but more as a prerequisite to this product science questions, not in the depth. We may cover it later. Some fundamentals, frameworks, do's and don'ts, tips and tricks, cheat sheets, common pitfalls, and some examples. So this is roughly what we can expect in the today's session. Now, the question is why we are starting with this series, because most of us, if I'm not wrong, are in the phase of just switching their career. And maybe the logical thing is, why don't we start with some product management concepts or the learning of it, and why we are directly starting with this uh, interview techniques and interview preparation. So I think the reason I believe is because you all are qualified for this. This is not a role of developer where you are first supposed to spend a few weeks on developing your hard skills first and then only appear for the interview. You are basically qualified, and historically even the product management role was not for the freshers. People from different walks of their professional life, they used to join. Of course, now the job market has been it has been completely different, but that's a different topic altogether. So that's one. Second, I think this is the best way to learn the product management as well, to build that muscle, because most of the product management interviews are not the commentary based. They are actual problem solving. For example, how would you improve Facebook? So this is a good way to start the learning of the product management. Third, I believe opportunities are everything. What we are today, I think there are 10 other people equally qualified, equally capable, but perhaps they didn't get this opportunity, and that's why we are here, and that's applicable to everyone. All we need in life is to get a good opportunity, and such kind of sessions, I believe, is one step forward in the opportunity, grabbing the right opportunity. So that's why I'm more interested in conducting this series. And lastly, we are anyways doing pursuing MBA, and the formal education and the learning will be there. But something like this will never be the part of our curriculum. So that's also one of the reasons why interview preparation, I thought it's a good way. So while most of the just to call out, while most of the fundamentals are applicable to all the product management, most the very 10% or 5% of what I'm going to cover is mainly crafted for digital product management industry. And I think that's what people are usually interested in. Uh, so when I say this is what the industry practice and all those things, I'm referring to digital product management or the technical product management. Okay. So a bit about me in the context of this session. So I pivoted my career from marketeer to a product manager, and I had a lot of issues. My profile, it was not so good. And so the conventional way of making a transition, which is pursuing a course and just uploading your resume on Naukri, that just didn't work for me. And it pushed me to seek all the unconventional ways, regular seeking the mock interviews and real interviews. And what I have today to offer, I'm not necessarily a great product manager, or I'm not necessarily good in all this interview stuff as well. But what I have to offer is a good collection of data, which is what worked in this interview space, what not, what are the typical mistakes that happens when you face the real interview. Okay, so that's a bit about me. Now let's start the quick prerequisite about the product management job role. Okay. Um, Now it's all start the product management manager's role start with discovering not just the solution, but the problem as well. So which problem we should work on, which is worth solving and which is not. So even you have to question that, right? So it always starts with that step. Once you discover it, then you have to get buy-ins, then build the actual product along with developers, ship the product, all about launching, then release notes, all those things, and then finally making sure the product is getting adopted. Adoption is the ultimate destination of the product. Now, these are not in a very static or sequential manner, right? Even while building the product, you might feel that something is you discover something new, and then you again go back to the discover cycle and then get buy-ins again, get approvals again. So this is not a sequential, but this is how typically the life cycle looks like. So PMs are expected to be good in their thought process, their communication, and their decision making. Now, just keep this in mind. This will help us in when we actually solve the problem. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. Okay. So let's move this one. Okay. So these are some common interview question types in PM job roles. And today we are going to discuss the first one, which is product sense and uh, product design, product sense or product design. So now what exactly is the product sense or product design questions, how it looks like. Okay. So this is how it takes shape. One variation of it is, what's your favorite product and how will you improve it? The other variation is, design a product X for user Y and by company Z. And this can again take variations such as, user is not given, or the company is not given, or the both not given. Example, design fridge for kids, or design a communication product for kids by Google. Okay, so this is one type of product sense, product design question. Then improve existing product X. How would you improve Facebook? That's another variant. How would you add specific functionality in the particular product? So how would you improve existing product, but in the context of certain functionality? Then final variant is, how would you solve the particular problem? Just a plain pure problem. It is not even defined that it is a product or not. Example, design a solution to conduct fair online exams. Okay. Now, when I say product, whenever the product is mentioned here or the problem is mentioned here, there can be multiple variations. Like the product can be a software, web product, or app product, or a hardware product, or even a physical non-tech product such as a cycle. Okay. So these are some of the variations. Now, out of these four variations, number 2 and number 4, they come into the category of NPD, which is new product development. And 1 and 3 are more about improving existing one. Okay. Now the question is, why do they ask these questions? Because any which ways, in the real world, you won't be solving problems like this. Uh, how can you solve, how would you improve Facebook kind of problems in just 30 to 60 minutes, right? So even if you join the same company, you will never solve the same way. Then what's the goal of interviewer? Let's start with that angle. So goal of interviewer is simple, which is, can you think like a product guy, and are you a PM material? But again, this is not clear, because what does it mean to be thinking like a product guy? A matured thinking is not just a requirement of a product role, but any role needs that as a basic requirement. So what exactly is a different thinking of a product guy than other roles? So let's also look at those things. On the other hand, we as candidates, we have our pain points in terms of, this is simply overwhelming. How can we uh, even work on the problems such as Facebook? How would you improve Facebook? When it's a mature problem already, mature product already, and all the best of the best brains are working on it. So how can we simply do it? So simply overwhelming. Second, even if we crack the first one, in the real time, we may run out of ideas because we don't know which product or which problem will come when we face the interview. So these are our pain points. Now let's deep dive into the PM material or the product guy thinking. What exactly is it? So number one trait is, can you deal with ambiguity or insufficient information? Now, when the question they ask is, how would you improve Facebook? By design, it is having insufficient information. That's not at all sufficient to proceed with. But how would you deal with it? Are you just getting lost, or how would you navigate yourself? That's one. Second is, do you think holistically? Because this is a cross-functional role. So on one aspect, it is UX, then privacy. There are some legal considerations. There are some business goal, resource constraints, feasibility, multiple possibilities. So are you able to work on all these aspects? At least think of all this aspect is one trait of the product thinking. Now, these are some of now what we are going to cover. These are some of the DNAs, the core DNAs of product manager, which is, can you identify the user persona? If a product is X, then can you identify the real characteristics of ideal user persona? And when you identify it, how well can you put yourself into shoes of users? So product managers, in a nutshell, they are a voice of customers and also great market analyst. So this product sense question is less about the market part and more about, can you be a voice of customer? And you will only become that when you can really put yourself into shoes of users. So, and the next is, are you the why person? Do you ask all the required questions, why it happens, and go through the first principle thinking basically. Then, uh, what are your ideas? Are you thinking big? Are you thinking different? You worked well on the problem area, but how are you when it comes to solutions? That's also one important trait. Your decision making skills in general, the combination of speed and quality both. And then, do you have the knack of measuring what matters? And very last is the art of articulation and simplification, because the role typically involves is, you work closely with engineers, you work all the tech details of it, but when you have to report into business people, you have to simplify everything, so that the simplified non-tech non-jargon version should cover everything. So the articulation and simplification is also very, very important. Now this is the core stuff. This is what the fundamentals of this product design questions. Now it is very important to know this part, because all the frameworks are built on top of it, and frameworks can change, but this will fairly remain same, right? Most of the interviewers, almost every interviewer will agree to this is what they look for. But now the thing is, the basic rule of any interview, not product management, but any interview is very simple, which is, no one is magician, right? No one can actually figure it out if the next candidate is, how will it perform when they join. So how that interview typically goes on, interviewer always looks for some signals to conclude that yes, you can deal with insufficient information, to conclude that yes, you can put yourself into shoes of users. So now, in the next 30-40 minutes whatever, we will focus on what are those signals, how we can maximize positive signals, and how we can minimize the negative signals. And so even if our brain didn't work, our in that particular time frame, still how to survive, and how to best put your brain on a mode which should work at its best. Okay, so this is what we'll focus on now. um, the the signals to evaluate, one is, are you asking the right counter questions and follow-up questions? What is the quality of your asking questions, right? Is it something, if the next person is thinking, wow, this is really a good question that even I didn't think of, then that's a good signal. That's a very strong signal. Second is, by design, all the problems are given to you, which are not feasible to be solved in a given time frame. So how successfully you descope it and make it a feasible exercise is again one signal that they look at. Then, how are you identifying the user pain points? You are just very, you are identifying in a very uh, high level way, which is lack of time, lack of wealth, or really, really deep, where one can conclude that yes, you have put yourself into shoes of users. That's one signal. Then you generally ideas are they just a very nominal one, very marginal one, or they are really uh, something out of the box. So that's one. Then what's your take on the prioritization? How are you prioritizing all the things, reasoning that you are providing? So all of these signals, interviews use to evaluate you. Finally, the structure to your answer. But these days, this is no longer a differentiator, because everyone knows framework. So the least everyone is right now doing is following the right structure. Everything else is perhaps maybe they screw up, but structure is kind of everyone is following. So this is no longer a differentiator. All right, so let's move. Any questions so far? Or are you following? Are we going slow or are you going fast? Any feedback here?
It's okay, we can manage.
No,
Okay,
it's fine.
great, great. Yeah, sure. So let's move. Now, what are some big no's? So now again, focus on these aspects. Focus on these aspects, and we'll now figure it out how to approach it. But before that, there are some really bad answers, some really no answers. Let's look at that first. One is no to any minor UI and UX suggestions. Example, the question is, how would you improve WhatsApp? And you notice that in WhatsApp, if you want to search for a message and you want to search only in certain 4 or 5 groups, not overall or not in a specific group, a group of 4 or 5 groups again, then that's not available. So maybe you say, okay, in WhatsApp there has to be more filters in your WhatsApp search, or the color change of your email, that the color needs to be changed. So such kind of suggestions, are they bad? Not necessarily, but they are not giving any signal to your interviewer in the product management context. They might be great for a UI interview, UX interview, but not for a product management interview. Product manager is the holistic and the big picture is what you are supposed to give signals about. Extending the same logic. So no suggestions such as page load is slow and it needs to be improved, because if the page load is indeed slow, any user can tell it, right? It doesn't need a product mindset. Any user can basically tell this one. Just 1 minute. Just 1 minute, guys. Okay. Okay, sorry. Let's resume. So no to such features, which are no to such suggestions. Then again, extending the same logic. The Ola caps is great, but algorithms are not good. Again, there are some not so good features, not so good suggestions. Then if you really come up with something very fancy, very good feature, but still know if it is coming very random, there has to be some link with everything. So that's why uh, thing which is coming random, big no. Don't jump to solution space too soon. Maybe this is a very generic and obvious advice. And avoid giving signals that might mean you are not collaboration friendly. Example, let's say you suggested something. You suggested that um, WhatsApp needs certain feature, and your interviewer says, "Don't you think this is not the right approach to? This is not the right approach. Don't you think instead of this, you should do that?" And let's say you are not aligned with what your interviewer is suggesting, and that's fine, because a lot of times interviewer are simply playing around, right? So that's fine. But if you are like giving a very curt reply like no, that that might signal that you might be great in your thought process, but you are not collaboration friendly, right? So how to be collaboration friendly? Just to be slightly diplomatic, like all right, what you're saying, that might be true, but these are my reasons why I feel still my version is better. Something like that. I think you guys are better in framing all this. So now let's move, and now let's learn the actual framework that's typically very very common in the product community. Every YouTube video you will see, you will find the same framework, very commonly used. What this framework about? It says whenever you get the problem, first define a goal for you, and this goal is has to be a business goal, or very or something like market expansion. right? This is a goal, for example, user engagement. So set such goals first. Then the goal that you identified, think of what are some of the user segments that can help you to achieve the goal. That's your number two. Then take any one user segment and just really think of what could be their pain points. When you identify the pain points, now work on, think on the ideas or solutions that can mitigate those pain points. Then provide a way to let them know that you have thought of 4 solutions, 3 solutions, and you are also able to prioritize that this is my number one, this is my number two, this is my number three. Finally, metrics to measure that even if your product after launch, if it is successful or not, you should define the metrics right upfront. So this is the basic framework, which starts with identifying the goal and ends with defining the metrics that will decide if the goal has been met or not. Okay. Now, let's just see it very quickly, 1 or 2 liner, and then we'll deep dive into everything. So goal, even the goal, you are not supposed to jump directly. Again, we'll use the same example. How would you improve Facebook? Don't directly say, okay, I would like to improve for the user engagement. Okay, instead, ask lot of clarifying questions first, right? Because the question is itself very insufficient. So it might mean there might be multiple possibilities. And what we have to show them that we are not assuming, we can think of multiple these possibilities and then confirming with you what you exactly mean, and then using this data to come to a goal. Second consideration here is, let's say if the thing is, how would you design the communication product for kids by Google? Now, whenever the company is there in the question, you have to think of company's mission, vision, stage at which it is operating, and see if it is really makes sense for the company to even work on that problem or not. Remember that our product management journey starts with, is it even a problem to start to work or not, right? So maybe you have to also consider some of these angles. In user segment is very simple, just 3 to 4, start with 3 to 4 and then finalize one, but with a proper reasoning. Why finalize one? Again, just in the interest of time. Then pain points. Again, think of 3 to 4 key pain points. No need to finalize one. No need to prioritize anyone here. That can be done later. Then for those pain points, give solutions and at least have one moonshot idea. Now, moonshot ideas are very, let's say, uh, something which is not feasible today. Maybe something around rockets or the technology that is yet not invented. But that is also fine if that is just one part of your solution. So you're not every solution should be moonshot, but at least one has to be there. Then prioritize it by any framework that you like. But remember, everything has to be aligned so far with the goal. Everything, user segment, pain point, solution. But prioritization, at least this has to be aligned with goal. Even if you, let's say, somehow miss the pain point and solutions to align with the goal, at least prioritization has to be there. And on the metrics, one North Star metrics and a few supporting metrics. And again, this has to be tied with the goal that you had specified in the beginning. So this is how typically a framework in a nutshell. Any questions so far? Okay. I assume no questions. And
Bhushan, I have a question. The third point, which is pain points, right? You said that we need to think of 3 or 4 pain points. Maybe say, for example, I think of 5 or 6 pain points, right? And you're saying that no need to prioritize anyone at that particular point of time. So, say, for example, I think like 5 or 6 pain points, and then I will have to think of solutions for all of them, right? So instead, why can't I prioritize pain points first and then think of solutions?
no, I think right question. I'll just hold on this one. I'll cover it when we get to this pain point and solution. So
Okay.
it's already covered. But yeah, I think this is a right way of thinking, that right way of approaching as well as why should I even accept this framework any point. So yeah, we'll cover it. Okay. So, okay. So now let's start with phase first one, which is goal. Now what we do first is asking the clarifying questions. Step one is asking clarifying questions. Now, when some question is asked, there are multiple various interpretations and flavors. So just ask those questions to the interviewer. Example, the question is, uh, how would you design the high-tech fridge, the next generation fridge? Okay. Now, one way of it is you are thinking about fridge only. The other approach is, which is what I am recommending, is think of multiple aspects. Fridge can be a domestic fridge. It can be of commercial use in shops and all. It can be of industrial use. So maybe ask interviewer what among these three interviewer is referring to. Now this give signal to interviewer that okay, you are thinking, you can think of all these possibilities, which is a good sign. Another example is, let's say, how would you design the furniture business of Airbnb? Now, again, it can mean multiple things. You mean the selling of furniture, like Furlenco, or does it mean, let's say, renting furniture, or is it just about furniture for Airbnb but owning their own? Something like that. So there are multiple such interpretations are there. You have to first think of that and ask them questions. For two reasons. One is, of course, we have to pass the right signals. Second, it is also important for to know the goal, to get to the right goal. So that's step one. Few of the other questions that you can think of are, ask them if what specific market or geo they are referring to, or just advise them, or just recommend them that okay, I am more familiar with the Indian market, so I'll go with India as a geo for the scope of this exercise. So is it fine? So you are just validating the assumption. Then maybe ask what kind of company are we? Are we a big company or small company? Because your goal will depend on that. This is only if the company is not given in the question, not otherwise. But what if the company is already given? Then just consider some of the company size, mission, vision, and if it fits into it, talk something about it. Okay. Now, example, we just saw the example of how would you design the communication product for kids. Okay. Now, what's Google mission vision statement? Vision statement is to, I'm not recalling exactly, but it's more like democratizing the information so that everybody on this earth can access the information. So yeah, it is something aligned with their vision, so we should do it. So something along that you can also mention. Now the goal is only such that you are again giving a signal that you are thinking of these business aspects as well. Okay, something that they haven't asked you explicitly, but you are still thinking about it proactively. Okay, but then do not do such things. Okay, this is not aligned with this, so let's not move ahead. So because that, then there will be no interview. uh, so we have to just handle it accordingly. Now for other questions you can ask, like is it any constraint or budget, time, and there are a lot of questions you can ask. These are just some of the questions so that you can get started. Now second is define a goal based on all these inputs that you are given. Now some of the goals, so there are some 7 to 8 goals you can think of. One is, let's say, user acquisition, user retention, market share or adoption, revenue, profit, user satisfaction, engagement, and market expansion. So these are some of the 7 to 8. Typically you won't need to go beyond this 8. You can simply choose anyone based on the problem. Again, to simplify, again a pro tip here is, if it's a new product development, usually go for user acquisition or market share. And if it is a matured one, go for user engagement. Now, this is no hard and fast rule, but this is just to help you, at least in the beginning. Because what happens, if you decide the goal of, let's say, profit, now you are making it complex for you in your subsequent phases, because how would you then you have to link your pain points, solutions, everything in order to generate profit. And that might be challenging for you, at least initially. Whereas user engagement is very, very, from thinking standpoint, very, very aligned to the product uh, directly. So a product feature, you can really think of user engagement, how it is linked. So this is easy for you when you start, and that's why you may just go ahead with the beginning in the beginning with these three only. Okay. Now, what some of the aspects of a great answer? Number one, you have demonstrated ability of thinking of various factors. Like I said, multiple possibilities, you are thinking of that. Second, you are taking decisions. You are not asking them directly, you are taking decisions, but also checking with them. Example, you are saying, okay, so based on all the information that you are given to me, uh, I think user acquisition is a right goal for that. What do you think about it? Do you think it should be different, or how is it? Now you have taken decision, and then you're checking with them which is ideal one. What's not ideal is you are asking the interview itself, because then that shows you are not able to make decisions, and you are not checking at all. That means you are not open to any feedback, suggestion, or collaboration. Then third is all the assumptions that you are working with, like I have descoped it for a specific market, or descoped it for a specific product category. uh, call those assumptions right up front. Then some of the companies, not all, some of the companies reward for thinking very differently and very big. Example, I was facing one uh, mock interview of Google travel. The question was, how would you design a travel product of by Google? Okay. And then I was thinking all the possibilities of how can I integrate it with maps, and all those travel recommendations and all those things. And then the interviewer, he give me a feedback. This is all good, but this is Google. Perhaps you can think of very big, like a space travel, or moon travel, or travel to a different planet, or maybe within Earth only, but travel through space or something like that, right? So why are you not thinking that big? Another example, in another mock interview, I was the question was, how would you design the next generation library? I thought of multiple aspects and all those things, and then came up with solutions that how can we uh, come up with the high-tech ways of maintaining books. In the end, I got the feedback that why you assume that library is books only, and especially when we are talking about the future of 10 years later, 15 years later. What is library? Library is not books. Library is about a place where the information, you can consume information, and there's a distribution of information and knowledge. So think of that, think of multiple ways even beyond books, right? So this is one goal of this product mindset, that do not get biased by the current version of the current solution set. Think of a very core problem. In this example, library, do not get biased by the books. That's what today it is happening. Think of a very core, which is library means distribution of knowledge and information, and act on it. And this is very uh, core and very highly rewarded when it comes to great answers from good answers. Okay. So what you should avoid it, like I said, asking directly to interviewer, not checking with them at all, or directly setting goal without any clarifying questions. So this was about goal. Any questions?
Again, I just have a small question. So in the previous slide, you said that say for example, if the interviewer is asking us about Microsoft or Google to expand or launch any of the products, so are you recommending that we should read I mean the mission and vision statements of few of the top companies?
So I think it is not like they are expecting, right? It is more about how we can just show that you are better than the other guy, right? So yes, if of the top 4 or 5 companies, forget about the mission, perhaps that's long, but just a one-liner vision, if that is what you get it right, at least as a very high level, not the word to word, then that will be helpful, right? For example, Airbnb's vision is how can anyone can belong anywhere, something like that. So that will be helpful to stand you out that you also know this, but this is not something that is expected in an average answer.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay. So let's move. Okay. Next is user segments. And this is a very fairly straightforward way, user segments. Now, let me ask you this question, and maybe any one or two can answer. If the product is YouTube, the question is, how would you improve YouTube? What could be your user segments? Any 1, 2 answers?
We can divide. I'm just taking the initiative here. So we can
Sure.
divide the user segments maybe by age. So kids, and then teenage, and then people in their 30s, and then adults, I would say.
No, no,
So
right, right.
so something like that.
Got it, got it. Yeah, I think that's the point I was about to explain. Now this is
One more, if I can add,
sure, sure.
based on the content that they are looking at.
Content that they are looking for. Okay, so that's also good one. Okay. Uh, Anyone else? Okay, so so that's the exact point I asked you this question. Now this is really this is very natural to think like this because that's how it happens in the marketing world as well. For this product, for this problem, for this exercise, never go for age-based segmentation like 18 to 24 or 25 to 30, 25 to 35, like that. Now, there is a reason for that. And this is very interesting because age-based segmentation or demographic-based segmentation is a very natural and accepted way. Even in the marketing world, almost all marketing tools, they give you option of targeting specific age group, right? So there is a valid segmentation, but still the advice is never go for this problem only, for this exercise. And the reason is the moment you say 18 to 24 or 25 to 35, there is no clear persona that gets created in your mind. The characteristics and persona, that's not very clear in mind. So let's say I say 18 to 24. I'm very clear what's 18 to 24, so that's fine. But it's not very clear in my mind around the characteristics of them. But instead, if I say um, a student living away from their home, a college going student living away from their home and staying in hostel, right? Now, a lot of the user personas and their journeys is very clear in my mind, or I would say they will come a little bit earlier in my mind. And time is the entire what we have to play it around because we'll be in a lot more pressure. So if I say 18 to 24, that's also fine. But hostel student, then I can think of, okay, then maybe he will not take bath daily. Maybe I'll have to think of products like that. So this is how it helps. The other no, big no is do not think of the platform roles such as creator, advertiser, content consumer. You can definitely start with this creator, advertiser, content consumer, but then further you will should be divided in something that is having some characteristics. And other reason for not going the platform roles, because remember the golden rule, don't get biased because of the current solutions. And the roles in YouTube, it is artificially created, right? So don't just accept it, challenge it. So this is something you can start with, but uh, don't just have creator, advertiser, and content consumer as your user segment. This is fine, but then you will not able to think of 10 ideas in a very short time. So then what we need to do? So it's about the characteristics and visualize persona. Example, and so these are combinations of life stage, profession, and hobbies. So kids, adults, this is a cheat sheet. Kids, adults, young adults, elderly, single parents, parents, student, working, homemaker, retired, fitness freak, travelers. This is something you can think of characteristics and persona. And for a minority of the problems, what works sometimes is life events, such as relocating or getting married. So where the things are very, it usually gets changed in a very short period of time. So, so let's say if it's a furniture business, the product is about the furniture, then relocating uh, will generate you more ideas, right? As opposed to, let's say, a working professional. So these are some of the tips on the user segment front. Some of the wow answer element is you are also thinking of some edge cases in terms of thinking disabilities, someone on the wheelchair, someone is blind. Uh, but if you are not very comfortable with thinking of all this, let's just not do it right away. Maybe we can think of it later. If the user is already given in the problem, like uh, design a uh, design a commute service for senior citizens. So senior citizens already given in the problem. So then go with their sub users, maybe living in the metro city, non-metro city, or based on their activities, hobbies, something like that. Okay. Finally, it's a tip. Whenever kid is there in the problem, usually parent is also there. So it also take it also under your consideration and thinking. You will get some ideas based on kids and parents. Okay. Now 3 to 4 segments you have to choose from. You have to basically put on the table, and you have to shortlist one that aligns with your goal and give some good reasons as well. And the good reasons could be because the size is big. Let's say, since my goal is the goal I defined is um, user acquisition, and I think this particular user segment is bigger than the other two. So I believe this user segment is good to go, good for our exercise. So give some reasoning and select one. So this was about the user segment, which is very straightforward. Now let's move to pain points. Now, pain points and solutions, these are very critical elements. This is your make or break kind of phases, and it needs a lot of thinking abilities and uh, thinking of various ideas and solutions right uh, on that forum. So what we need is, how can we just open up our brain? So some brain steroid, I think. So number one is visualize user persona and think of all the events, both uh, within app and outside app as well. Now, again, let's take the same example of a college going student staying in hostel. Okay. And let's say the product is YouTube. Now, um, just imagine like a college going student, maybe name something. Uh, Now, when he wakes up, then perhaps he stayed late in the night because of that's how the typically the hostel culture works. So he wakes up late. Now he's running out of time. He wants to catch up something early. So think of all these elements, think of all this journey, because it helps you to then identify some pain points. Now in the YouTube, maybe you can, the insight here is your user persona typically stays late at night, and maybe some of the features that you find relevant that can come across. So number one rule is, don't just think of events which are very directly related to your product, but entire day-to-day journey that also you can visualize and see if you can get some patterns there to think of pain points. Okay, so that's one. Number two is, if you are still, your brain is not working, remember these common themes, which is lack of time, lack of space, wealth, want to be more special, mental peace, safety, and hygiene. And now club your product. Now let's say if the product is YouTube. Now YouTube and lack of time. Think what can be pain point. One pain point could be, since there are a lot of options in YouTube, and I do have a very limited time, So I need something very, very specific of my need at that point, right? Let's say that is one pain point. And then YouTube also already came up with something, I think, key pointers or key movements, right? Key movements is the feature YouTube launched. It's exactly serving this lack of time stuff. huh? Then second is, let's say, want to be more social. YouTube and want to be more social. What can be the pain point? Mm, so let's say I'm watching YouTube here. My friend is watching YouTube from a remote place, but we want to collaborate. We want to be very social and collaborate with each other while watching certain YouTube video. So maybe some certain pain point and certain idea can generate based on if you think of these themes. And then the third is think of current solutions or gaps and think about what they lack. Not let's say applicable for when the exact product is given, which is let's say YouTube. But if the product is given like this, that solve the commute problem for kids, in that case, think of what are the current solutions or options exist in the market for commute for kids, and then you will get some ideas here. So somehow this will help you to identify some of the pain points, and we'll later look at some examples as well, so that it will become more clear. But this is how typically you should think of. Now let's also think about, let's also talk about the point that someone asked here, which is why we should not prioritize any pain point. And let me tell you, in the product community, there are two different beliefs. One, which is a majority of belief, which believes that prioritize your pain point. If you are thinking about three pain points, prioritize only one. And this is also very natural extension of how business are usually built. When any new business starts, they do not worry about 3 4 pain points. They just focus on any one pain point, go really deep into it, and see how can they address it, right? So this is a very natural extension, and this is also right approach. There is nothing wrong in it. Why I believe more in the second approach, which is do not prioritize pain point. For number one, let's say you identified 3 pain points and you shortlisted number one. But when you are in the next phase, when you are thinking of solutions, what if you got a very amazing solution, but for pain point number two or pain point number three, right? So why you are blocking your mind? Why you are, because it's anyways, it's already you are running out of ideas. So it's already a tough challenge. So why you are blocking your mind and putting some artificial constraint on it? So that's why just keep open. No worries. If your solution is for number one or number two or number three. Second reason is usually it's not always 1:1 mapping of a pain point and a solution. For example, see this online meet. It solves 2 pain points. One, um, the remote location. If we are not in the same location, then also we can have it. Second is if someone stays very close, but at that particular time, they are not able to attain this. So the recording of sessions will solve that problem as well, right? So one solution, which is let's say online meet, is solving their two uh, problems. So this is how typically it works. It's not always 1:1. So that's fine. And third is uh, the overall goal is to show a recruiter, to show the interviewer that you can prioritize, show show the prioritization skills. So that's fine if you prioritize solutions only, because somewhere you are anyways showing it. So that's fine if you are not showing here and showing it there, right? So these are some of the reasons. Is the question answered now?
Yes, Bhushan. It's fine.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So yeah.
Hey, hi. I've got a question. The pain point section, Kiran here. So
Okay.
when you say pain point, so is this part of your, the whole framework? So the question is to ask to design a product. So we accommodate pain point there, or it's just identifying the pain points when you're asked to, like like exactly what do you think will be the pain points in this particular section?
Sure, sure. See, the question you will be only asked is in the beginning, which is how would you improve Facebook? Interview will never ask you anything beyond that. Hmm?
Got it.
It's everything is what you have to figure out, right from goal to metrics. So this framework, entire thing, you have to figure it out.
Got it. So when we are saying pain points, say when it's a particular problem statement, right? Any complex problem, like say fridge for the kids.
Right.
Now, when the problem statement is fridge for the kids, the pain points you could assume is what are the pain points that the kids are facing because they don't have a fridge for themselves, right? That is
Right,
what
right.
you're expecting, right?
Yes, yes. So
Perfect.
in this example, maybe the pain points are kids' height are usually small and
Right.
fridge is big and then no one is around, right? So that's one pain point.
Right.
Other pain point, let's say from parent standpoint, is there are a lot of not so healthy food items in the fridge and your kid is just getting it and there is no control on it. Something
Got
like
it. Understood. Yeah.
that.
Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now solutions. Now before solutions, let's analyze a few things. The commute problem was solved by Uber, right? Google cracked the information democratization puzzle. Microsoft was able to democratize the computing. So what's common in all these three? The common part is technology, right? So tech is usually defined as a newer way of solving problem. So now in this exercise, again, we can take help of tech to come up with solutions. Now it's not a rule always that tech only will provide you solution. But see here in this exercise, we have to come up with something very quick that will unblock us. So here tech can help. So just keep some keywords and buzzwords ready and try to visualize with your product. Now, this I borrowed from one a good video on YouTube, and I'll share the link later, which is how not to run out of ideas while uh, attempting these questions. So I'll share that. But what it says is you just keep some of the keywords ready with you, like IoT, VR, AR, cloud integration, blockchain, and just have some understanding of what it does, not in a deep way, but just what it does. Then your product, if the product is given, or the problem, and try to map with these two. Now we were looking for example of YouTube. So YouTube plus Gen AI. Think of what can be done. So maybe one suggestion is you are watching one video and you really love it and you want you there. So you are just uploading your own pic and that the YouTube will give you a new video based out of generative AI with now replaced with the original artist now replaced by you. Okay, so something like this you can always think of like that. Usually if the product is of education, VR, AR, that can be clubbed and you can say we can enhance the experience because of due to this VR and AR stuff. So just play around all of this. And that is one good video. I'll share the link that will again help you further. Okay. Now, some of the symptoms of signs of great answer. One, you're talking about ecosystem and combining two products or suggesting to form some synergy. Let's say the question is asked of the YouTube, but you also apply some business sense. And since Gemini is also a Google product, so how you can club these two and coming up with solution. So something like that is also a good sign that you're again thinking way beyond than what is asked. And again, this is not required, right? Everything is not, let's say, hard and fast rule that you should have it. But this will just help. Now, second good sign is when you mention a feature, it is typically a one or two liner. So it is always a good idea to name it something very, very cool. And that again shows your simplification and articulation skill. So name a cool feature. So we just now talked about your Gen AI and uh, the existing video. So just give whatever cool name that you think, like it's Video U or whatever you find it, just to simplify things. Uh, Now, like I said, at least one moonshot idea. We'll cover it later if we get a chance. Now this is again one way to manipulate someone that you are really a holistic thinker. Like talk about privacy, consent, compliance. Now, just a minute before, we talked about the idea of combining YouTube and Gen AI and um, coming up with a video, which is the original video, is now replaced by your face, your friends. Okay, now this is a cool feature, but you are not just you haven't just stopped there. You also mentioned, but see, there might be some privacy issues, there might be some compliance issues. So yes, we'll have to take care of those. And if all is good, then this is a good feature. If you just add one or two lines, again it gives a signal that okay, you are also thinking of all these not so obvious things. Okay, now keep in mind that avoid features that are already existing in the product, which is customized feed. The customized feed typically is in now every product. The quality might be improved, but it is already there. Now when we say product for kids or product for elderly, some of the times it's true that it's only for products, but some of the times it's not meant like only for them. Example, elevator for blinds. Now it is not feasible that in a public space you're building an elevator only for blinds, right? It has to be also for blinds, right? But only for them is just simply not possible. So again, this is not given to you. This is all you have to think it proactively and mention it. It should have a strong connection with the business goal and the pain points that we listed earlier. Okay, like I said, don't worry about the one-to-one mapping. Then the final is the prioritization of it. Choose any one framework of your choice, but what is recommended it to just go with the simple one. So avoid complex frameworks like RICE. RICE is a framework which is good one for the real world, a real job. RICE is for you're actually solving a you are working on a problem for quite a few days and months, and you have a lot of data. Then complex framework like this works, but not otherwise. So RICE stands for reach, impact, confidence, and maybe I'm not recalling the E, but this is how it typically. It just makes your life a little bit complex if you go with certain. Sorry, E for efforts. So if you go for certain complex thing, instead just go with simple, such as what I follow is value, effort, and rank. So there are three features. So one something which is a very high value and low effort, rank 1. High effort and very low value, it is on rank 3. This is also called as t-shirt sizing. And one alternative approach to is, instead of this t-shirt sizing, give points. Like if something of a high value, give 3 points, and something of low effort, give 3, and then multiply. So 3 into 3 is 9, and this will automatically rank as 1. Then I also add one more parameter, but I think that will just make things a little bit complicated. Another good framework is feasibility, viability, and desirability. So this was about the prioritization. Just one thing, guys, we are slightly going beyond time. So is it okay with you all if we just extend this for 10-15 minutes, or how should we plan?
Yeah, you can continue.
Okay. Session will be anyways recorded. So if you please feel free if you have certain other things too. Okay, we'll just wrap it in max 10 to 15 minutes. Now remember, in prioritization, explain reasoning behind your choices. It always have to be aligned with your goal. Now moonshot idea here, you can keep it on the lower priority. Okay. And if something is a hardware product, remember some of the things are very irreversible, because when you launch a product, you can't change in that lot, or you can change, but then you have to do recall, and that is very costly. So think of all this while doing the prioritization. Last one, which is metrics, must be tied with the goal you mentioned. Now, one pro tip, typically net promoter score or customer satisfaction score is what you can have in almost all the cases. So if, let's say, you are not able to think of metrics, at least you can go with these two. Now, if the goal is acquisition, number of installs, registration, signups, these are typical metrics, right? There has to be one North Star metric. What it is one metric that will deeply tied with your goal. So this is a North Star metric. And then there are a lot of supporting metrics. I'll just skip this part in the interest of time. And this is a cheat sheet, the entire list of the metrics. So it's daily active users, weekly active users, monthly active users, retention, churn rate, number of sales, features failed or crashed, bugs reported. All of these metrics you may just keep in mind and act accordingly. Okay. And there can be some other metrics logical for your own case. Let's say Airbnb occupancy rate. That because that is what it for that business, occupancy rate matters. Okay. Now some optional but good to have steps. One is right in the beginning, just show them this is what you are going to approach of this problem, like goal to metrics. Second is after goal and before user segments, set some context about the product of that problem. And third is summarize everything in a minute or two in the end. I would recommend at least go with 3. 1 or 2 still can be skipped, but do not skip 3 for a reason, and I'll tell you later. Now, use it with caution. I'll tell you the downsides of deeply associating with the framework and only thinking about the framework. So when the interviewer frames the question slightly differently, then we go blank. That's already happened with me in a lot of interviews. Second, framework is no longer the differentiator. Now you know the framework. Now everyone on the call will follow it. So what's the differentiator, right? For an interviewer, you may choose any other framework as well if it suits better. There is no rule. Only what you should have in your mind is just have those concepts with you, that this is what interviewer will look for. That is more important. Though I will suggest follow this framework loosely, because the industry is attuned to it, and not everyone is equally, I would say, equally mature to reward a completely different one. So just at least loosely follow it. Very important, don't sacrifice your common sense in the name of framework. So too many things. Let's just simplify some takeaways. Don't rely solely on framework. Instead, get the concept very well in your mind. And concept is start with a goal, no random stuff. Stay aligned with the goal throughout. Focus on user pain points. Use technologies as a tool to generate ideas, and do not get biased because of current solution space. View problems at its very core level. Show your below traits, which is ask great questions, ability to put yourself in user shoes, decision making, articulation, and holistic thinking. Okay, these are takeaways. Now, practically, this is all in a very ideal way, but there are a lot of challenges and mistakes we do typically do when it comes to, practically there's a lot of pressure on us. In 30-40 minutes, we can't, a lot of times there's a pressure, right? So typically I'll tell you what are the mistakes that are done here. One is you realize that your suggested solutions and pain points are somehow not aligning with the goal that you only mentioned a few time back. Now you know it as a concept that it has to be aligned, but it happened. So how to deal with it is call out proactively and mention that if you realize it yourself, call out proactively and mention that, okay, seems like this solution is good, but not directly aligned with my goal, but I would still like to keep it, and I'll deprioritize it whenever I'll do the prioritization exercise. So call it like something that. Another way is, or another thing to put in mind is, this mismatch angle, it should not happen at the time of prioritization at the list. Because then it's no way back. It is difficult to now correct your mistake. And sometimes, yeah, admit and correct to interviewer. Yes, you are right. Thanks for correcting. Maybe I'll approach it differently. Something like that. Then another common mistake is you are putting too many metrics but can't think of one North Star metric. That is another one mistake. Third is you're going very slow and taking too much of time. You're just losing sense of the time. Here solution is, you may ask in the beginning itself that, may I assume we have 40 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, and keep a track of each time. And if you lose a track, compensate somewhere. So maybe these are very common sense, might not need to call out separately, but just putting it here. Fourth is, you are getting anxious about, you are taking too much time to think. So the framework that we talked about, typically you should ask for a minute or two, or 30 seconds or 1 minute to first think of. So before user segment, ask interviewer, please give me 30 seconds or 1 minute and think about it. So when you do such things, maybe it's only 30 seconds, maybe it's only 1 minute, you are getting very anxious that you are taking a lot of time because it's a void, right? So how to handle it? There's something called as pain gain framework in product world or UI UX world as well. Example, you are in a lift. The gain of using a lift is you save all your manual efforts, but the pain is you have to wait. There's a waiting time. So what is the solution typically they employ? They put a mirror in the lift so that the time will remain same, but you will not realize it. You will just busy in seeing yourself and praising yourself. So similarly, make a habit of thinking it aloud, if that's how you are very comfortable with. If you are thinking something in your mind, make a habit of thinking it loud so the interview will stay engaged. And if you're not comfortable with this, then maybe at some interval update about your progress. So, okay, I'm still thinking, I would need some time. This is what so far I did, and let me just move ahead. You can also manage with this technique. Then do not keep it a monologue. Do check with interview after every step, so that the goal is to keep interviewer engaged. Okay. Now, another is, there are a lot of back and forth fumbles and unable to express your ideas and pain points, because at the same time you're doing two things. You're developing your thought process, generating ideas, and at the same time you are expressing it on the fly. So it's very, very, so this, it is not like, let's say this session, entire thing is already I have thought of, I'm just now expressing. But interview is not like that. So it's very common that because of those back and forth, now the interviewer is not very clear about how are you up to, what are you exactly suggesting. Even if your suggestions are solutions, your entire thing is top notch, still it can happen. So what is the solution? If possible, use some visualization, like a Word doc for online or pen and paper, and F2F, if the F2F, sorry, pen and paper for F2F and Word doc for online. If your typing speed is too slow, maybe do not use it. But the workaround is maybe write only essential words, not everything that you are saying, but some way where the interviewer is engaged. Summary in the end is, that's why it's a good habit. Like I said, the optional one, but I recommend, because at this stage, at the end, when everything is, the ideation is done, now your thought process is very, very clear. Now that part is done. All you have to do is just summarizing it. So just summarize it in a minute or two. Okay. Last is either becoming too spineless or too rigid. So let's say if interviewer is saying, don't you think you are doing it wrong here, and you are accepting it, oh yes, that was wrong, you are right, without any thought process or without even thinking about it, you are not defending yourself. So this is also bad. And the other extreme is also bad, where you are not even accepting your fault, even if you believe that, even if you convince that, okay, this was not the right one. So both things are, the denial mode is also not a good thing. But if you disagree, don't give curt responses though, just manage it well. Some of the caveats: Now, length of the interview in US and in India varies a lot. So in US interviews, typically it's one interview for one question. And that's why most of the YouTube questions YouTube mock interviews will encourage you take 1 or 2 minutes or ask these questions, ask every time, are you okay with it, and all those things. That may or may not work always in the Indian context, because some of the companies, they do not have like one interview round only for one question. And Indian interviews, a lot of times they do not even follow the standard framing or question types and have some variations, which is actually a good one. It's a good strategy actually. There's no rule that you should have the standard framing always. My one real experience, I'll tell you. The interviewer asked me, okay, what's your industry? I said, it's ad tech. He said, what are the top pain points? I said, okay, these are the pain points. Then how would you solve for it? Now, this was again just the product sense question, but he started somewhere from the middle, and I was very much the framework oriented, so I had a tough time to answer it. If the same question was asked in a standard format, I would have done it. And then sometimes the questions are very much on the overlapping between different types. So during discussion, the question might take a turn, and which is now, let's say, product strategy becomes product sense or something like that. It happens, just a caveat, maybe do not worry about it. Good part of the product sense question is it will help you in other question types as well. Your basic is ready, which is then you can use it for how would you build MVP, questions on metrics, questions on prioritization, questions on road mapping, your product tear downs and take home assignments. So all of this, it will be very, very helpful because your somewhat the basics are in place. So if you practice product sense well, it will indirectly help you in all of this. Now, too many stuff, you're confused, I know. What should you do next? I think the cognitive overload is real in product world, because there's a lot more available on the lot many uh, content is available on the internet, and so there's a FOMO. But do not run behind each and every content that you come across. It's fine to go for 250 page PDF on interview techniques. It's fine not to read all the 100+ case studies solved. That's fine. Just pick something, but follow more of an outcome terminology and not output. Build a real muscle of the product mindset, and don't focus on jargons and topics. Give up perfection mode for now. I have covered a lot more things, and I shouldn't have, but then there are some bandwidth challenges, so I covered everything. But do not start up with that, especially the wow answers. Do not worry about how can you come up with the wow answers right in the beginning itself. Just start basic. Even the caveats I talked about, even do not worry about it. You will manage it. Skip some of the things I needed. And then follow this for the next few days. Get the key concepts behind framework very well in your mind. Refer the takeaway slide here. Watch 3 to 5 YouTube mock interviews. Maybe you can solve it by pausing videos, prepare your answer, and then cross-check it. I will send some of the links here that I find helpful. Then do yourself 3 to 5 mock interviews, and then there are a lot of platforms. I will give you those communities links and how to arrange it with mock interviews, even from the market that you need. Maybe if you want to practice with someone who is in the US market, you can also do it. So I'll provide all those information. Then all these learnings from this session, then your YouTube videos, your mock video interviews, document it well, and have two versions. One is zoom in and zoom out, a detailed version, and one is a very quick, which is a 5 minutes or something. Now you are ready. This is done. If you have followed this one, now proceed to next question type. And whenever you need to brush up, just refer the notes and documentation you have created. This way you can stay yourself focused on one, do it very well, and then move ahead. Next session, I'm planning about this. We'll practice 1 to 2 questions together on LiveMate. I'll play the role of interviewer, but will also assist and provide directions. The question will be there, will be asked impromptu. You will not get to know it earlier. Maybe there are a lot of amazing PMs in our group. So we may also request them to contribute it here. And what's your favorite product part? That is what it is missing right now. We'll also cover it in the next one. So this was it for today's class session. Open to questions if you have any. It's already, I know it's delayed, but if you